I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now.
Bill Maher didn't just criticize Gavin Newsom, he lit the fuse, stepped back, and watched everything blow up publicly on live TV.
Well, you can't call it a drought if it happens all the time. In a story I'm getting tired of reporting, California is running out of water, and this time, just when we started showering again. 19,000 acres of forest have already burned this year, and 72% of the entire West is in severe drought. Turns out hot girl summer is for reals.
As California sinks deeper into red tape and tone-deaf policymaking, Bill doesn't pull punches. He goes straight at Newsom, breaking down what he sees as bloated regulations and out-of-touch decisions piece by piece. It's sharp, direct, and hard to ignore. If you like clear talk and independent analysis, you'll want to watch this breakdown from start to finish.
The median time to get approval to build a house there is 627 days. That's 217 days longer than it took to build the Empire State Building. You need 87 permits, 15 from the Planning Commission, 26 from the Public Utilities Commission and the Fire Department, 19 from building inspectors, 17 from the Public Works, 10 related to public spaces, and 1 from a guy in a T-shirt that says Federal Inspector. It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect.
Picture the mountain of red tape just to get approval to build a house. The paperwork alone feels endless. Bill argues the process now takes nearly 3 times longer than it once did to build iconic New York City landmarks decades ago. That helps explain why, a year after devastating Los Angeles wildfires, only a small number of homes have been rebuilt. Reports show many displaced residents remain stuck in temporary housing, whether nearby, elsewhere in California, or even out of state. You'd expect a place collecting some of the nation's highest income taxes to move quickly and deliver real help. Instead, progress crawls. For frustrated residents, the system feels slow, tangled, and disconnected from urgent needs.
California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail. We have the highest marginal tax rate in America, higher than almost all other states, and soon Greenland. Now, is wokeness the main reason for the fires? Of course not. But it's also not wrong to associate some of the unforced errors our government made with the things normies see as hallmarks of uber-progressive politics: questionable budget priorities, high taxes that get you nothing, making everything about identity politics, virtue signaling overseas instead of tending to the nuts and bolts at home.
That's the fallout, he argues, when policy chases ideology more than results, and California becomes the cautionary tale. When leaders focus on symbolic priorities and expand government into every corner of life, core services can slip. Take water management. Residents have warned about worsening droughts and shrinking reserves for years. A response driven by urgency would tackle the issue head-on. Critics say the problem keeps getting delayed while attention shifts elsewhere. The result, they argue, is a growing gap between promises and practical outcomes that people feel in everyday life.
We have spent the last 2 decades in perpetual drought here, yet almond farmers in California have doubled in that time, despite the fact that almond production alone uses more water than all the humans and businesses in San Francisco and Los Angeles combined, even on days when your teenage son spends 2 hours showering. Look at this chart of how much water it takes to grow different crops. Oranges, tomatoes, strawberries all take about 11 gallons to make 1 pound. Almonds, 1,900 gallons. That wasn't a problem back when it rained, but now there simply isn't enough water to go around, and we have to make a painful choice, getting it to the people or getting it in the nuts.
He argues California can't afford mistakes like this, especially with wildfires growing worse every year. The margin for error is basically gone. What makes it feel absurd, he says, is that Gavin Newsom urges residents to cut back on water use, a step critics say barely dents the problem. Meanwhile, large-scale agriculture consumes massive amounts of water, and big corporations keep drawing resources too. Ordinary people feel lectured, while the biggest users face far less scrutiny. That imbalance, he suggests, fuels frustration across the state.
It's not like California doesn't know how to regulate. They know we are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again. California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica, or starting a business, or getting your solar power hooked up.
No wonder many people feel the system is rigged and they think they have reasons. When corporations glide through while families struggle just to rebuild, the imbalance is obvious. Critics say this pattern isn't new, it's a problem residents have noticed for years.
But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regulations, but somehow that slipped through the cracks? For a state that just loves to be up everybody's ass all the time, water management might be a better place to direct that instinct.
Then there's the high-speed rail project meant to connect San Francisco and Los Angeles. Since 2008, billions have been spent, timelines slipped, and costs soared dramatically. Bill Maher used a sharp comparison to highlight the gap between promises and progress, and he didn't soften the message.
But just as an exercise in realizing how far we've regressed as the can-do people, I think we should all try to imagine how it will go down if we tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore out of a mountain today. First, we'd have to make the mountain handicap accessible, so we could hire handicapped people to work on the side of a mountain. Then there'd be a 10-year delay while we studied the effect of construction noise on the mating habits of woodchucks. Then another 10 years to obtain ethnically sourced dynamite and find a sculptor who doesn't only work from home. And then another 2 years to apologize for being on Indian land. And finally, after 50 years and a cost that had ballooned to $100 billion, we'd have half a nostril, and it wouldn't be Lincoln, it'd be Che Guevara.
It may sound dramatic, but that's the point. When regulations exist mainly for optics while trapping people in endless hurdles, they stop helping, they block progress. Rules should protect, not suffocate. The fix isn't complicated. Put leaders in charge who treat government as a service, not an obstacle. Write clear laws, cut pointless bureaucracy, and focus on results instead of appearances. When systems run efficiently, trust grows naturally. Without that shift, frustration lingers and little changes. What do you think? Drop your take in the comments.